So we have reached that point in time in the NFL season, that point in time in the year, especially if you're a Bears fan like me, where your attention starts to shift towards April's NFL draft. Now, certainly other teams' fan bases that are worried about is the playoffs, and maybe we can win a championship this year. Who wants to do that? I mean, that's only the ultimate goal is to win championships, right? Nah, let's talk about the draft instead. That's more fun. But seriously, the draft is where champions are made. The draft is where you build the cornerstone, the foundation that helps you to win Lombardi trophies. And obviously as a Bears fan, like, the 2023 draft is going to be very critical to the organization in the short term and long term. And they're certainly not the only team in that mix. There are a lot of teams that will be looking to the draft in April and wanting to plug some holes and set themselves up well for the future. So here I am with my first mock draft of 2023. It's only a one-round edition, and I want to call out a few things here before I dive in, just to clear up any misconceptions or any inevitable grumble gripes that you're going to see in the comments. One is that this is not me making any statement about where I think any player should be taken or will be taken. It is nothing like that at all. So if you are going to get your man panties in a bunch because I've got player A over player B, that's your problem, not mine. Because I might come back in 2 or 3 months and say, well, player C is better than both of them. I don't know what the hell you're complaining about. That can happen. So keep that in mind. Number 2, when you talk about where players are going, some of this is just a reflection of the draft slot for guys and where I think they could go. Not always necessarily just a need-based thing. Some of this is need-based, certainly. I mean, admittedly, most of the NFL draft, especially in round 1, is need-based. You say, oh, our team drafts for best player available. Very few of them truly actually do. That's bullshit. Stop believing that. Third thing I want to call out here. There will definitely be a very heavy Bears slant to this mock draft. There absolutely will be. So just be prepared for that. In fact, they are the only team that I focused on in terms of any draft trades, if you will. And maybe I'll do this for other subsequent mock drafts because I do like to go through different scenarios. Those of you that have watched me and followed me for years know that. But today's major focus is going to be the Bears, and we'll get to that in a moment. But right now, we've got a week left in the regular season. Houston, at this moment at least, please win Week 18, Lovey. Give Chicago a gift. Houston sits there with the number 1 overall pick, and look, we know damn good and well that if Houston loses in Week 18, secures the number 1 overall pick, they're taking a quarterback there, period. And they did it well to some degree in terms of Davis Mills. They didn't force themselves to dive in on a quarterback in the 2022 class that everybody agreed was much weaker. They said, well, wait. See if Davis Mills can show he's the guy. And when he inevitably shows that he's not the guy, big surprise, then you'll be potentially positioned to draft a quarterback in 2023. And that's where the Houston Texans find themselves. And they're also in an interesting spot, too, because as it sits right now, they'd also have the 12th pick in the draft because of the Deshaun Watson deal. So there's a chance there to get your quarterback of the future and somebody to help him on the offensive line and the receiving core, as I've got them taking Bryce Young, the quarterback from Alabama, first, and then Quentin Johnson, the wide receiver from TCU, at pick 12. That probably won't ruffle too many feathers. Perhaps my having Carolina trade up to pick 2, where the Bears are currently slotted, to take Will Levis, the quarterback from Kentucky, may ruffle some feathers. And look, we could get to a point in the draft where Bryce Young and CJ Stroud are the clear-cut 1 and 2, and everybody debates that. We could get to this point in the draft where you start to hear more talk about Will Levis is QB1. And it's the debate between Young and Stroud about who's QB2 and QB3. You could also hear talk, you could envision something like Anthony Richardson becomes worth more thought because teams are really enamored by his upside, even though he's much rawer. And does he end up knocking down a Bryce Young or a CJ Stroud in the draft process and in the draft rankings. Shit, crazier things have happened, right? I'm just saying. But Carolina obviously needs a franchise quarterback. You know they do. You can't keep trading for other teams' rejects like Sam Darnold and Baker Mayfield and expect to be successful on a consistent basis. And especially now that you're going to probably be looking for a new head coach. I doubt you're going to retain Steve Wilkes, especially since the Panthers aren't winning the NFC South. That's the time to make up for the mistake of the fool Matt Rule, where he didn't go for his own quarterback. He tried to get somebody else's reclamation project. Panthers need to go in. And just playing this out as a scenario, because there will be a lot of conversation, right, about teams like the Bears, and if they're in that spot, will they take Justin Fields? Will they not? I'll talk about whether or not they should be thinking about quarterback at pick 2 later on this week. But wanted to see what type of draft capital would Carolina have to give up? What would Chicago be able to expect? So in this trade, Carolina moves up from 9 to 2. They give the Bears the 40th pick, which is a second-round pick in 2023, as well as a fourth-rounder, number 111, and then a 2024 first and a 2025 second. So certainly not prohibitive for the Carolina Panthers to make the move from 9 to 2. Certainly got to be very enticing for the Chicago Bears, because staying there at 2 and taking a defensive player would be dumb dick work of the highest order, even for Bears football. To be able to trade back and in one fell swoop move back and then be able to end up with draft pick capital for 2023, premium draft pick capital for 2024 and 2025, that's really good work. And then I sweeten the pot, obviously, by having the Bears trade back from 9 to 14 with Washington. Washington giving up picks 14, pick 46 in round 2, and a 2024 third-round pick to move up those 5 slots so they could take a quarterback. Right now, as it sits there, do I anticipate 4 quarterbacks going in the top 10? No. Could that change? Certainly. It's not out of the realm of possibility. You got a lot of quarterback-desperate teams. I'm just playing out a scenario here, so take it all with a grain of salt. But for Bears fans that are looking at this, and they're saying they're probably somewhat giggly tits about this, because then I have the Bears taking Paris Johnson Jr., the offensive tackle from Ohio State, at pick 14. Maybe they're not so giggly tits because they're saying, what about Braxton Jones? To which my response is, what the F about him? What the F about him? If you want Justin Fields to be the guy, are you that sure that Braxton Jones is the long-term answer at left tackle? Come on. Or you play Paris Johnson at right tackle, hell. Or you play Braxton Jones at right tackle. The Bears need freaking talent, and you figure this crap out later is what the heck I'm trying to say right now, basically. But I also have the Bears trading back up into the tail end of round 1, and in this case, I've got them taking Osiris Torrance, the interior lineman from Florida, and they need to address the offensive line multiple times. They also need to address the defensive line multiple times between free agency and the draft. This is a draft and off-season for the Bears that should be very heavily invested in the trenches on both sides of the ball. You're going to hear a lot of talk about the Bears needing a game-breaking number 1 wide receiver. They do. They absolutely do. And if they get the opportunity to potentially trade for one or draft one, they have to consider it. Because they have so many effing needs all over the place that they just need talent upgrades. But philosophically, they have to address the trenches early and often. Because they need 4 new starters on the offensive line, and they need 4 starters on the defensive line, because they don't have a starter right now. So, I'm just saying. And when you look at this, what would this position the Bears to do? Like you're saying, why would they trade back up to the tail end of round 1? Because you get a 5th-year option there for that other first-round pick. Why wouldn't you? Make sure that you get your guy. And even in this scenario, where I have them trading up to where Buffalo is at pick 30, they're giving up pick 40 and pick 111, which you think is around the value you'd usually see for a team in the top 8 to 10 picks of round 2 to move up into the tail end of round 1. That's about what you usually see given up, is that 2nd-round pick and maybe a 4th-round pick in the same draft. The Bears could still have picks 46, have their own pick later in round 2, address the interior of the offensive line, address defensive line. Like, they have needs all over the place. So, yeah, in terms of this draft, like I said, I put a little bit of time into it, but don't take it too seriously. It'll get more serious in the weeks and next couple of months to come.